Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi adhilni mudkhala sidqin wa ahrijni mukhraja sidqin waj'alni min ladunka sultanan nasira. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yang saya muliakan Tan Sri Nik Muhammad Yaakob. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe also faculty members, students from various universities and colleges, the media, thank you very much for being here. I shall start this afternoon session after a very enlightening keynote address by our Deputy Prime Minister, Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who is also our Minister of Education, and his keynote address lends really significant importance to the topic that we have for today, which is the role of education in leadership development. So, to liven up this afternoon session, we have with us three very distinguished panelists, and I have the hardest time trying to determine which one I should introduce first. So I shall go by the advice of one of my very senior and respected panelists. He says ladies first, so I shall introduce the lady. This lady actually started off her love for education, actually, maybe, and I would think because of her desire to allow her child, who is at that time, I believe, about 3 years of age, who was unable to get admission to a school. So she decided that if the school, as in the proverb, if Muhammad doesn't get to the mountain, then the mountain must come to Muhammad. And so we have with us Datin Frida Pilus, who has a string of private schools to her credit, which is the Sri Cempaka Damansara Heights, Sri Cempaka Ceras, Cempaka International Schools, Cempaka International Ladies College, and Labuan International School. I welcome to the stage Yang Berbahagia Datin Frida Pilus. Our next panelist has been known as Bapa ACCA, or the father of ACCA. He was the former director of the University of Technology Mara, formerly then known as Institute Technology Mara, when I was a student there. He went on to become the deputy governor of the Malaysian Central Bank, and he was famous for his role of introducing and supporting ACCA education in Malaysia in the 1960s, because the then ITM was the first institution in Malaysia to offer ACCA tuition. He is a pioneer in the Malaysian accounting profession, and he gave Malaysian students wishing to gain international accountancy qualification the opportunity to study in their own country for the first time. ITM was the first institution in Malaysia to offer ACCA. When he was awarded the ACCA Achievement Award, the ACCA Chief Executive, Alan Blewett, said that this gentleman is celebrated as a far-sighted educationist who has a tremendous impact on business in Malaysia for nearly half a century. By introducing ACCA education in Malaysia, he has bequeathed an incredible legacy to his country. I repeat again, he has bequeathed an incredible legacy to his country. It is no exaggeration to say that many leading corporate leaders in Malaysia and beyond owe their career and success to this man. His advice, influence, and vision encourage more professional accountants to take up high-profile positions and make lasting contributions to the business world. Please put your hands together for Tan Sri Dato' Arsyad Ayub. The other panelists that you have in your program book Emeritus Professor Tan Sri Koo K. Kim is unable to be with us today. However, in his place, we have just as distinguished a scholar. And if I can find his biodata right here. Yeah. Yeah? Can't hear me? Okay, sorry about that. He is a professor at the Department of Management and Humanities, University of Technology Petronas, Bandar Seri Iskandar Perak. His academic and research interests include Malay media and journalism studies, media history, intellectual history, and history of social science, and press council and self-regulation. He has published 3 monographs, 5 books, journal articles, and book chapters on his areas of interest, and obtained a PhD in history and philosophy of science, Malaya, Master of Arts in Mass Communication, and a baccalaureate in political science from Minnesota. He is associated with Malaysian Press Institute. He sits on various panels, among them the Malaysian Qualifications Agency, as well as the History and Philosophy of Science Committee under the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. He has been a member of the Ministry of Higher Education, Social Science and Humanities, and Malaysian Qualifications Framework panels. His current projects include Malay intellectual history and developing alternative perspectives on the production of knowledge. He was awarded the first Perdana Leadership Foundation Honorary President's Resident Fellowship for research work on Malay Occidental discourse, and he is, I am reminded, a strong proponent of future study, which I hope he will share with us. I invite to the stage Dr. Ahmad Murad Marikan. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall start our discourse, and I'm allotting for each of the speakers, our panelists that we have for today, about 20 minutes a person, after which we will deliberate on the issues that have been brought up. I would like to invite first to the rostrum. I think we shall invite Tan Sri Arshad Ayub.
Terima kasih Puan Sri, members of the panel, participants of the seminar. I think the reason why I come here first, there's a saying, it's always age before beauty or beauty before age. I think for a change, it's age before beauty. So thank you very much, the 2 beauties and the handsome man. I have not done any research activity or work, except I tried my level best to read a lot and share my experience and look for information. I know when you talk about leadership, you only lead, but don't forget, you only lead if you got followers. Now this is the point. When I run the ITM even now, when I lead, but I have a lot of people who help me to lead, so don't forget that. There's no such thing as one-man leader, no. You can choose who are helping you. Maybe in some cases could be your wife, your son, your colleagues, and in case of university, you have a lot of deputy vice chancellors, lecturers. So this is the most important thing. One of the important things, before I forget, the qualities of a leadership is to outsource what you don't have. And none of us are fully adequate in life. Hanya in Malay, in Tuhan saja yang cukup. Kita semua tidak cukup sifat. We are inadequate. So as a leader, you must find ways and means to outsource. That as a beginning in case I forget. Now, I would like to thank the organizers, especially the Perdana leadership, for asking me to give a talk. Perhaps to share some of my experience. So my talk will not be very valuable, but I would like rather you ask a lot of questions. Now, I am really excited to share some of my thoughts on this subject, as it is close to my heart, and I've always been passionate about the role of education in producing leaders of tomorrow. And that is, when I talk about leaders of education, both professional, academic. To me, there are a number of leadership, if you like, in this country to prosper. One is political leadership. The other one, academic leadership. And the other one is business leadership as well. And most important thing, I happen to get involved in some of these things. And I hope you don't miss asking the questions. Now, coming from a humble origin myself, I hope sometime, if you have read the story of Second Chance, my life story may also be the life story of many of our young generation today. And I say this because today's young generation is different from my time. I am 82 years old. Our nation has gone through so much and so many changes over the decade. And we are all set to develop further in the decades to come. And this is a great challenge for the youth. Education is where persons at a young age can be trained in the qualities which make up a leader. I take it for granted that the term education in today's discourse is inclusive and refers to the education system in the entirety, encompassing the primary, secondary and tertiary tiers, although not all will become leaders, not in the formal sense at least, the qualities of leadership will enable them to be better citizens and to contribute to society. But we in one of us, we are always a leader. Later, you may be a lead among yourselves, and then there's a question of the family when you get married, and then the group, and so on and so forth. So to me, each and every person has got the potential to be a leader. But of course, not all of us can become a prime minister, only one, unless you can topple, like Australia in coup d'etat, very fast, overnight. The famous, well-known Kevin Rudd was toppled by this Lady Gillard, who is from Wales. I happen to graduate from the University of Wales anyway. Then, so we can say that the government has a moral obligation to ensure that our children are instilled with the values and virtues that define and characterize a leader through the education system. The aim is twofold. Apart from molding and shaping good and upright citizens, it is also help to children in their personal development and promote their well-being. This has been emphasized by the Deputy Prime Minister in his keynote address. When they develop the wholesome and balanced individuals who are capable of assuming leadership roles and yet possess that humility and sense of modesty and appropriate perspective in life, which makes them teachable, which make them meek and willing to be subordinated, then we have built a kind of society which is mature, progressive, sophisticated, and renowned. Leadership qualities is necessary not only to perform one's calling in life or vocation effectively and efficiently, but also to enhance moral attitude and habits. And I cannot emphasize this strong enough. A leader is someone who acts on behalf of the others. And we see then that leadership is grounded in the concept of collective good, for what it means, or, as I like to put it, service before self. Such a concept itself is broader than the concept practice of leadership. It is a moral, ethical value or virtue which really continues to be integral to our understanding what it means to be an Asian. In contrast, the Western idea of leadership, which is more functional, that is, for the sake of convenience in a democratic system, our Asian values remind us that state and society are not separate. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we can easily see why state and society should not be regarded as an artificial construct, as if the state has no natural relationship to society. Both state and society have their origins in the most basic sphere of life, which is the family. And the family itself is structured, ordered, and led by parents, hence in the parental institution. In this parental role modeling, guidance, example, supervision, motivation, so on are essential ingredients to the making of leaders starting at home. As the idiomatic expression goes, charity begins at home. Although today's discourse is on the role of education in developing leaders, it is not out of place to speak the first about the role of parents, since it is only logical that they precede or come before the education system. As I have stressed in my speech last October at the UITM's 71st convocation, parents play a crucial and indispensable role in fostering and forging the human capital of a nation. Parents must ensure that their duties to their children in terms of education is not neglected. In other words, parents share the burden of educating children with the school, and this is, I believe, a very important point to remember, especially to those in our society whose ideas of life do not place much value on education. Yet I must say that in the old days, the old generations, in my generation at least, even though my parents were illiterate or semi-illiterate, because they did not have the opportunity that their children had and the subsequent generations now have. Just like to remind you, my parents, both my mother and my father, are rubber tappers. They had a strong sense of moral values, due no doubt to religious influence also. These parents, whether in the rural or urban areas, had a higher degree of trust and confidence in the teachers and schools. This was because the teachers in those days were idealists, passionate, committed to what they saw was the cause in the service of our then fledgling nation. The educational institution plays a potent, pivotal, and formative role in shaping and developing the potential of the young generation as future leaders. Primary and secondary education are the period where an individual's mind would be very impressionable in his or her lifespan. One could argue that it is at this level where the future outlook of an individual leader would be decisively and perhaps indelibly etched in the psyche or psychology. Education is not only imparting knowledge and skills which are intellectual, but also a setting of moral character building or formation. Parental and educational institutional complement, they do not contradict one another. The one building upon the other with the parental institution to reinforce, confirm, and affirm the values, ethos, outlook, attitude instilled in the education system. Moreover, the educational system plays a crucial and pivotal role in shaping the national culture, which in turn is crucial and pivotal in guiding and providing the mindset, attitude, self-belief, and self-confidence and conviction in our nation quest towards a highly developed nation status, Vision 2020. To be more precise, we need a national culture which can set us on the indefatigable path towards a high-income economy. This requires innovative and creative culture which the education system is responsible in nurturing and cultivating. When we talk about high-income country, it means our real, high real income, not only the money value. May I remind the audience that this year 2010 has been designated as the year of innovation and creativity. It is imperative, therefore, that our policymakers in the education and higher education ministries take every step to ensure that universities, polytechnic, colleges, and schools have forward in encouraging innovation and creativity among students. Perhaps a new curriculum and fresh syllabuses should be designed which reflect the objective of encouraging an innovative and creative culture in school, particularly through the promotion of concept of sustainable development in the application of green technology. In support of this, expos and exhibition should be organized on a more frequent basis to allow participation by schools, while in universities, in addition to expos and exhibition, I call upon the Higher Education Ministry to make available more grants and cash incentive to students in the natural sciences and engineering discipline so that we can continue to access all the more in all areas of scientific and technological endeavor. To add, we should also be mindful of the present government's emphasis toward attaining a high-income economy, a higher income per capita through what is known as the new economic model. The NEM has correctly identified the strengths and weaknesses of our economy and what needs to be done to address the problem and overcome the challenges, both internal and external. And one of the serious internal challenges we are facing is the shortage of highly skilled and highly innovative people. We are not attracting enough talent to make up for this shortfall. This is why, to re-emphasize, the education system is so vital to produce highly skilled and innovative people for the future. And that is to provide the base for the training and retraining and upskilling of our workforce, where it seems, according to NEM report, around 70% or so leave the education system at secondary level. Now, I believe that one of the reasons or factors must be the lack of a proper culture in our education system, at least from the primary to the secondary level, which inculcates the notion, habits and qualities of leadership, both in theory and practice. Our education system is not doing enough to promote a conducive environment where the young generation can learn what is leadership and how to be a leader, even if amongst other leaders. With that, it is no wonder that many of our students do not pursue further in life and just be contented with what is now a basic secondary qualification or just a degree. They don't want to go further ahead and to continue education. Having said this, I'm careful to avoid generalizing and saying that this means that many of our students lack the self-confidence, self-belief, and conviction. Thankfully, the other institution in our education system, namely the Vocational Institute, play a critical role in producing technically skilled people which are required for our industry in the various sectors. Thus, I hope that the government would also see to it that the Vocational Institute become setting for leadership training and development. They too must not be left out in the equation, so to speak. Now, what about leadership development? We now come to the part where we discuss a bit more about what is leadership development. Leadership development is simply the continuation, progress, ongoing process of the art and skill, if you will, of leadership as both an idea and practice. It is therefore a never-ending process of journey. It never ends. The idea and practice of leadership is never exhausted, since we are dealing with people, and people are complex animals. This means that potentially, at least, there will always be other possibilities which leadership would be required to deal with or respond to the challenges. In fact, one of the important characteristics of leadership is the acknowledgement of one's own limitation and constraint. This acceptance or embrace of our fortitude, and if I may put it, that we are mortal beings, enables the leader to put things into proper perspective and thus be able to lead effectively and efficiently by making the appropriate judgments and decisions in life for the sake and good of those he leads. And so the leader always knows that there are things he does not know or yet to know, and so he or she is always in the process of learning. We have seen how parents and education institutions provide the basis, bedrock, foundation, and so on for the development of future leaders. Parents cannot avoid or shun the responsibility of educating their children intellectually and morally, or at least morally. Parents should not have to wistfully or regretfully ponder that they should have done more if and when their children grow up, missing opportunities in life, improving their lots in life to move upwards and be socially mobile, and thus doing even better than their parents. Leadership development, both as a concept and in practice, is dynamic. Both the parental and educational institutions are actively involved, and the government should continue to explore ways to encourage and even incentivize parents to do more in their children's education, including character development. It also takes belief in your own children that they are unique, special, born with a personality which is totally unlike others, including unlike their parents, and have the innate capacity to excel in life no matter what the circumstances are. Is it part of our culture to have this attitude? Regardless, the government should start encouraging parents to have a wider perspective of parental responsibility other than just providing in material terms. Parents, especially those in the rural areas, and I stress this very strongly, must learn how to mentor atau membimbing their children in their educational development. Their children may not grow up becoming prime ministers, politicians, top bureaucrats, CEOs, managers, but at least they have what it takes to be one. At the minimal level, did you know that when Obama was a child spending in his years in Indonesia, his mother, Ann Dunham, used to expose him to John F. Kennedy speeches? Or, as we all know, JFK, or John F. Kennedy, was and remained an inspiring statesman and one of America's greatest presidents, a skilled orator and a politician with utmost conviction, who was not afraid to take unpopular decisions, and that is one of the qualities of a leader. He was indeed a leader to be greatly admired. JFK's leadership was to inspire many aspiring Democrat presidential candidates, not least Obama himself. We can see where he probably got his oratorial style from Obama's flair for communicating his policy vision that makes a lasting impact and impression on the minds of the people, that tugs at their emotional heartstrings and not just intellectual or visceral chord. In other words, an outstanding leader should ideally be also someone who can move the people with his or her words, as well as translate these into concrete action. In our local Asian context, in the region, we have several notable leaders known to their grand standing in the heydays of decolonization. One of them, Sukarno, was a grand orator, a demagogue, if I may say, who